Hello. So this is a sweet deck I drafted, or not, because I don't know. I just haven't been drafting much lately. Cause whatever. Drafting's still sweet. I just don't like losing value every time you open a pack. But this is pure value right here. So this is a little deck I brewed up. Um, so let's talk about the. This is the key thing here. Is we have Madcap Experiment. Madcap Experiment says reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put that card on the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Madcap Experiment deals damage to you equal to the number of cards revealed this way. This seems like a terrible card. I would never draft this card. Um, but when you play Modern, you can play with Platinum Empyrean as your only artifact in the deck, so that when you cast Madcap Experiment, what you end up with is an 8/8, which is 4 mana 8/8 is probably playable in Modern, not necessarily actually great, but it not making it so your life total can't change is pretty good because then they can't usually kill you. So if they can't kill you, you have an 8/8 on the board, you'll probably kill them. So since your life total can't change, you don't get dealt damage even if you reveal whatever 30 cards to the Madcap Experiment. This is a pretty powerful little combo, and I think it's good enough for Modern. I tried it in a couple different shells. I tried it in a red-green Ponza deck, which I don't know why it's called a Ponza deck, but it is. It's kind of a land destruction, Blood Moon. It runs Stone Rain and Monrovia Acid Moss, which is a sweet card. Um, but so there's that. Um, I think this is the best shell for it. It has so this is basically a Grixis control shell. We're running this stuff instead of like Tassigurs or um, Lilianers or other kind of game-winning stuff. This is very powerful, especially uh, not against all decks. Some decks it just dies. It's not very good against Tron or something like that. It's not very good against Infect. Your life total not changing doesn't really matter when they're trying to just poison you out. But so I'll just talk about the deck. It's at 23 lands here. Um, I don't know. I might be off by a land or two in the wrong areas. Creeping Tar Pit is just the best man or creature land if you want to be politically correct, which is not something that's bad to do. Um, I had a Desolate Lighthouse or whatever, the loot out. So it allows you to loot for effectively 4 mana. Um, because sometimes you draw uh, an 8 drop and your deck's not really set up to cast the 8 drop. But I found honestly like spending look if you look at the rest of our deck, we're very heavy on colored mana. We don't have anything that has more than one uh, uses more than one colorless mana. So if you're trying to cast 2 spells in a turn, the Lighthouse is just pointless. And also, just you don't usually have time to spend 4 mana just to draw a card and discard a card in Modern. Usually doesn't work out that way. You need to spend your 4 mana by putting in an 8/8 that prevents you from losing life. Should note that it is a little bit of a non-bow. You have Platinum Empyrean and a fetch land because you just can't activate the pet fetch land because your life total can't change. Reminder text: you can't gain or lose life. You can't pay any amount of the life except 0, so you can't pay the 1 life to crack your Scowling Tarn or your Bloodstained Mire or your Polluted Delta. As for the remaining spells here, we do have 3 Jace Vryn's Prodigy and 2 Vendilion Click to help us loot through or allow us to discard the Platinum Empyrean. It's particularly good with Vendilion Click because it goes to the bottom of your library, so you can still cast it. Sometimes you draw both your Platinum Empyreans, and then Madcap Experiment is just 4 mana. Lose the game. So that is not a good spell at that point. But if you can click the Empyrean back to the bottom of your deck, it's okay. We have 5 discard spells to help clear the way for the Platinum Empyrean. It's hard in Modern to wait until you get up to 5 mana, or at least 5 mana if you had like a Dispel for their path or something like that, to get Platinum Empyrean through. It's better to have discard to be able to, make them discard their answer to the Platinum Empyrean and then cast it. It's an 8/8. It should win the game fairly soon after you cast it. So it's easier to just fade a few draw steps, and then you have just like a very light smattering of counter spells: Spell Snare, Logic Knot, and Mana Leak. Logic Knot is just great. It's kind of just you to run actual counter spell, but you can only really run 1, maybe 2 if you got interested, because the stack fills up this graveyard pretty quick with Jace and fetch lands, and you got 4 Serum Visions, 5 discard spells, and 4 bolts. So the graveyard gets pretty full pretty quickly. So this is capable of going into the late game, and if they've got 8 lands and they cast a 2-drop, you can easily cast this for X equals 7. And then, removal. We've got 4 lightning bolts, 3 terminates, 2 Kolaghan's Command, and 1 electrolyze. Just a good smattering. Kolaghan's Command is pretty great a lot of times because we have Snapcaster Mage, and Kolaghan's Command rebind Snapcaster Mage, which then Snapcasters back at Kolaghan's Command. Buys you a lot of time. Either buys you a lot of time, or honestly just can flat win you the game against a lot of slower, Jundier decks or something like that. So I think we mentioned everything in the main deck. Moving on to the sideboard, we've got Madcap Experiment and Platinum Empyrean. It's good. It's powerful. There are some decks that just can't beat it. Like you cast this against Dredge in game 1, and it's pretty much just a game. They just can't win at that point. They can do. When I say they can't win, it's going to be very hard for them to win. Against Affinity, cast Platinum Empyrean, and they're going to have to either poison you out or find double Galvanic Blast to be able to kill the Platinum Empyrean. But like I said, against more controlling decks, against Tron, which can just Karn this out, isn't really pressuring your life total that much. Against more control decks, Jeskai control or something like that. Against Infect, this is really not where you want to be. So where I go is to Dark Confidant, and very frequently Fulminator Mage with that. So once you take out the Madcap Experiment and Platinum Empyrean, everything in our deck costs 3 or less. Even in sideboard, everything taps out at 3. So Dark Confidant becomes very good. I have not yet tried running Dark Confidant with the Platinum Empyrean. You could, in theory, if you really thought your life total was not in jeopardy, but I wouldn't recommend it. So there's that as a transitional sideboard. I also have 2 Dispel, Countersquall, Thoughtseize against combo matchups, which include Infect and various Teamer Battle Rage type of decks. We have also 3 Anger of the Gods, and is it Staticaster? This is Staticaster's. When it's good, it's great. Oops, let me bring up this card. You might not. It's not the most staple card ever, but deals 1 damage to target creature and each other creature with the same name as that creature. Pretty good against. It's actually great against Infect. It's also got Flash, so you can just cast that on their end step. And once Staticaster's out there, it makes life very hard for Infect. hits Infinity pretty hard. Elves. I bring it in against like Lingering Souls decks. Hopefully they've got a little bit more than just Lingering Souls, but Lingering Souls is pretty difficult for us to answer. Another Kolaghan's Command. Anytime you need to really grind, Kolaghan's Command comes in. Also, very strong against Affinity, and not bad against Infect, honestly, because Inkmoth Nexus is a artifact some of the time. So this is the deck. I've been playing it a fair bit. I've been winning a little bit over, probably like 63, 64% of my matches in friendly modern leagues on Magic Online. A lot of my losses are because I screw up. I'm not usually a control player. Usually in modern I play Burn or Valakut type decks. So that's the deck. Let's run it through a league and see how it does.